Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're aiming for, truly exceptional financial goals, the conventional advice, it often falls short.
It really does.
So today, we're taking what feels like the ultimate shortcut. We're diving into a framework that claims it can bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to be just by mastering your internal operating system.
That's exactly it. This isn't just about strategy or, tactics. It's about control. We've pulled together a ton of research, all grounded in psychology and neuroscience, that really acts as a map.
A map of how the mind works.
A map of how your mind interacts with external reality. And the whole principle, the foundation of this entire deep dive, it was captured perfectly by the Roman poet Horace. He said, "Rule your mind or it will rule you."
Okay.
We are going to show you step by step how to control your thoughts, your emotions, your actions to make reaching those financial targets. Well, source material says literally inevitable.
That is a huge promise, a promise that really demands proof. So our mission today is, it's crucial. We're not just going to summarize the advice.
No.
We're going deep to give you what our source calls reality literacy, the ability to understand the mechanism of success, the actual nuts and bolts of how internal change creates external wealth.
And to start, we have to tackle the biggest hurdle that most people face. What? What do you think is the true determinant of financial success?
Well, most people would say it's a specific strategy, right? A product idea, some secret growth hack.
9 out of 10 people, yes. They'll say exactly that.
But let's push back on that for a second. Information is basically a commodity now. I mean, we can look up anything online. So why do people still pay thousands for courses? Isn't it the structure of the information that's the bottleneck?
That's a fair challenge. It really is. But the source material, it calls this the how-to hoax.
The how-to hoax.
Yes. And the data proves it's a hoax. Think about it. If information were the key, then professors, librarians, people who are just drowning in structured information, they would be the richest people on the planet, and they're not.
Okay, you have my attention. So where is the real bottleneck then?
Look at the evidence. You take 100 people, they all join the same course. They get the exact same stimulus, the exact same information, same structure.
Right.
Yet the results are all over the place. Roughly 10% do incredibly well, 80% are just average, and 10% fail badly. The information is a constant. So the variable, the thing that determines success or failure, it's the individual.
The true determinant is you.
It's you, your external reality, your bank account, your business metrics. It's all just a reflection of an internal cause.
So if we boil success down to its most irreducible component,
Then bridging that gap between where you are and where you want to be requires only one thing, a consistent sequence of actions toward a defined target.
it sounds so elegantly simple, but this is where the trial of reality, as the source calls it, kicks in and just breaks almost everyone.
It does. It absolutely does. And it breaks them because results are a lagging indicator.
The lagging indicator.
That huge financial success you see someone having today, that's the product of consistent actions they took maybe 6 months, maybe even a year ago. You could be doing everything right, you could be facing massive hardship, and see zero immediate return for your efforts.
And as humans, we are just fundamentally wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure right now.
Immediately.
That primal wiring, it just screams when you encounter all this short-term hardship for some long-term invisible gain.
And that mismatch, that cognitive and emotional conflict, it creates what we call the self-interference loop.
The self-interference loop.
You take the right action, you hit that discomfort zone, and your primal brain, which only cares about immediate safety and comfort, it just screams at you to pull back. And that retraction leads to inconsistency. And inconsistency is the ultimate failure mechanism.
So we need to go beyond just take action. We need a map that explains how our internal world creates those consistent external actions.
Which brings us to the core framework, omnomorphic reality.
Okay, let's break that down.
Omni means total. Morph means transformational change. This model is the roadmap. It shows you exactly how your internal identity affects your external reality. It's a causal network with 6 critical interconnected nodes.
6 nodes. Okay, let's unpack these connections slowly. Where do we start?
We start with the spine of the whole thing. The first and most important connection is between self-concept and external reality. They are in what's called reciprocal causation.
Meaning they cause each other.
Exactly. Your self-concept, all the beliefs about who you are and your place in the world, it defines your actions, which create your outcomes. Those outcomes then feed back as evidence, constantly reinforcing that original self-concept.
So it's a closed feedback loop. You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are.
That's it. If I believe I'm a high performer, my reality gives me evidence of high performance. If I believe I'm unlucky, well, my reality will be full of evidence of misfortune.
And that self-concept then defines the second connection.
Which is your state of being. Your state of being is just the prevailing felt tone of your thoughts and emotions. It's a snapshot of who you believe you are right now. Your emotions arise through the filter of your beliefs.
Can you give us an analogy for that?
Sure. Think of beliefs as mental shortcuts, heuristics. You see a cute golden retriever. Your belief that dogs are safe triggers a state of being. Calm, pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
You see a snarling coyote, your belief that wild animals are dangerous acts as a filter, and instantly you get the emotion of fear. Your belief dictated your emotional state in a fraction of a second.
So my beliefs aren't just intellectual ideas. They're pre-programmed emotional triggers that determine my default mood.
Perfectly put. Which brings us to the third connection. State of being determines action. How you feel and what you're thinking governs what you do. If you feel energized and certain, aligned action feels easy.
And if you feel anxious and doubtful, avoidance feels natural.
It feels like the only option. And most action is either habitual or reactive, just driven by these states.
Okay, and the fourth is the one simple truth we all know. Action impacts external reality. If you're not moving, you're not changing anything.
That's the only way to interact. And now we have the two mechanisms that manage all this feedback. Fifth is the automatic reinforcement mechanism, or AR.
ARM.
This thing is always running. It converts every single lived experience, your thoughts, emotions, actions, outcomes, into raw evidence. It's like a hard drive constantly recording whether your self-concept is true or false.
So if I start a diet and I promise myself I'll run 5 miles, but I only walk 2, the ARM records the walking as the evidence.
It records the factual action, yes, and it reinforces your identity as someone who doesn't follow through. But now we add the sixth and most insidious node, the emotional amplification mechanism, or EAM.
Okay.
This mechanism filters all that evidence based on its emotional intensity and direction. Emotion is the language of memory.
But how does that filter actually work?
Okay, let's say you take an action toward a financial goal. You make a cold call, and it actually leads to a sale.
But success?
External reality says success. But during that action, you were just wrapped in intense anxiety, doubt, and fear. The EAM filters that experience not as confident action resulting in success, but as fearful, anxiety-ridden action.
So the anxiety wins the vote. The outcome doesn't even matter to my identity. The feeling of the action reinforces the old limiting belief that I'm not really capable.
It reinforces it. You succeeded, but you felt like a nervous imposter, so the EAM registers that emotional state as proof that the old self is still running the show. And this is why just pushing through is not enough for sustained change.
Okay, that EAM concept, that's the missing link.
Yeah.
So now we get the mechanism, which lets us talk about the problem it causes. The cycle of mediocrity.
The cycle of mediocrity.
This is that oscillation, right? You make progress, you have a good week, but then you just snap right back down.
It's the elastic band effect. You're trying to move forward with your actions while your identity stays fixed in place. The tension builds until you hit what's called the identity ceiling, and then you snap back to the identity floor.
And that snapback is driven by a hidden conflict.
A hidden internal conflict, yes. When you commit to a major goal, your self-concept fractures into two selves.
The two warring self.
First, you have the old self. This self operates out of the limbic centers of the brain. It's all about preservation. Its goal is survival and familiarity, and it's held together by every single one of your limiting beliefs.
And its weapon is emotional resistance.
Its primary weapon is emotional resistance. Then you have the desired self, the version you're trying to become.
That's the future-facing self.
Exactly. It operates out of the neocortex executive function. It's built on empowering beliefs, and its goal is growth. This whole thing is the omnomorphic trial, a battle for which self gets to be in charge.
And the rules of this trial are simple but pretty brutal. First, your state of being acts like a switch.
A switch.
You can only be in one room or one state at a time. If you're anxious, you're in the old room, and only the old self's beliefs are accessible.
You get immediate cognitive dissonance if you try to take aligned action from that anxious state.
And the second rule, action is a vote. You have to accumulate enough votes for the desired self to make that new identity stick.
But here's the kicker. Far, far fewer votes are needed to revert back to the old reality, just because of familiarity. It takes a huge effort to climb out, but one moment of collapse can drop you right back in.
And the weapon the old self uses to make you collapse is that emotional resistance. When you face a big task, a difficult sales meeting, launching a product, That action threatens the old self's familiar boundary, and the resistance just appears.
And that fear, that doubt, that anxiety, it creates an emotional fog. And that fog leads directly to irrational avoidance behavior.
Procrastination, doom scrolling, self-sabotage.
Anything. And those avoidant actions are immediate votes cast for the old self. The moment you give in, you've been dragged right back into the cycle of mediocrity.
Okay. We've identified the enemy and its weapon, so the solution has to be omnomorphic, changing all the levers at once.
Identity, state, thought, action, all simultaneously. We need weapons of attack to pull ourselves into the desired room, and weapons of defense to neutralize that resistance.
Let's start with the attack.
Okay, 3 weapons of attack. The first is inevitability embodiment. You have to become the version of yourself for whom the goal is inevitable.
Not the version who already has it.
No, that's crucial. Avoid the fantasy of buying extravagant things when you're broke. Instead, you mimic the daily actions of the person who gets that outcome.
So it's about figuring out the quantifiable input. If my goal needs 100 leads a month, I have to find the daily input quantity, the 200 cold calls, the 10 pieces of content. That makes the goal statistically unreasonable not to achieve.
And then you execute that quantity daily, regardless of how you feel. That consistency builds undeniable evidence for the ARM.
Okay, weapon 2.
State activation. This is a protocol to manufacture the correct emotional intensity on demand. We just can't rely on waking up and feeling confident every morning.
So how do we generate that fuel?
It's a 3-step process. First, induction. Use a meditative or hypnotic technique to lower your brainwave states. This makes your mind highly suggestible.
Okay.
Second, single scene visualization. Again, don't visualize the outcome. Loop a short, intense scene 5, 10 seconds max of you taking the required aligned action with total certainty. See yourself making that tough call.
And the third step is the critical filter for the EAM, emotional amplification.
That's it. With each repetition of that scene, you intensify the felt emotion. Certainty, conviction, absolute inevitability. You are simulating success with such high emotional intensity that the mind can't tell the difference. You create this massive wave of confidence that propels you into action.
That's the fuel for action.
Yeah.
But when the road gets long and brutal,
Yeah.
sometimes the internal why needs to be massive enough to just sustain suffering, and that's the third weapon, right? Socratic reasoning.
Yes. Nietzsche said, "He who has a strong enough why can bear almost anyhow." Material desires, they're surface level. They don't make you suffer. You want a fast car, okay, but why? We have to drill down.
So you take your top 5 material goals and just ask why, over and over again.
At least 5 times. Let's run it. You want to buy a massive house. Why?
I want to feel secure. Why?
I want my family to look up to me. Why?
I want external validation because I spent my life feeling unseen. Why?
Because I desire status and recognition, which makes me feel in control. Why?
Because the achievement itself.
Yeah.
It represents my growth and mastery.
And that final intrinsic driver, growth and mastery, that is the potent fuel. It's often uncomfortable to admit these things, especially the desire for status, but those are the drivers we are truly willing to suffer for.
Write them down. Remind yourself daily.
When that emotional fog descends, this deep why is the only thing that will provide enough counterforce to the immediate pain.
So now we have the attack weapons. But resistance, it's inevitable. We need the weapons of defense, the shields.
Exactly. And the primary shield is meta-trained metacognitive return.
That sounds complex.
It's just the ability to become the observer of your thoughts and emotions rather than being identified with them. Metacognition is thinking about thinking.
Oh.
The old self's weapon, emotional resistance, it's insidious because we don't notice the creeping doubt until it's already a tidal wave of panic or apathy.
So we need to train our awareness to catch it early, to interrupt the loop before it spirals into avoidance.
And that training is daily mindfulness meditation. It builds your metacognitive return muscle, the ability to notice you're distracted and bring your awareness back. If you can observe the emotional fire, you can stop piling coal on it.
But sometimes you're going to get blindsided anyway. You'll be dragged out of the desired room.
Yeah.
And that's when we need the step-by-step process, the disarm protocol.
Yes. Disarm is what you deploy the moment you feel that drag of resistance.
Okay, let's walk through it. D is for detection.
You name the emotion instantly. Out loud if you have to. I'm feeling self-doubt. I'm feeling irrational apathy towards this task.
I is for isolation.
You sit quietly and just become the observer of that physical emotion in your body. You neutralize the charge by consciously cutting off the fuel supply of thought. You have to wait until the intensity drops by, say, 80 or 90%.
You can't reason with an intense emotion.
It's futile. Which brings us to S, simplify. You debunk the perceived threat intellectually. Use the now sick perspective. Recognize there is no tiger in the office. There is no physical danger in that cold call. You simplify the problem until the emotional illusion breaks.
A is for alignment.
You shift your state of being back into the desired room. Use a short affirmation like aligned, or even more powerfully, feel genuine gratitude for the resistance.
Gratitude.
Genuine gratitude. Frame it as a necessary opportunity to finally break a limiting belief. You have to thank the discomfort.
Okay, then R is for respond.
Take action immediately on the specific task that triggered the resistance. Don't wait. You have to produce the counter evidence for the ARM right away.
And finally, M is for memorize.
You track and reflect on the experience. A quick journal entry, a voice memo. Reviewing these successful responses provides compelling evidence to your ARM that the old self's weapon is losing its power. You're reinforcing the new, desired identity.
This whole synthesis is just...
Ah.
It's extraordinary because it reframes the difficulty of success completely. If we zoom out one last time, what's the ultimate characteristic we're trying to optimize for here?
Consistency, not intensity. The person who uses disarm and works 4 consistent hours a day, 5 days a week, they will always win in the long run.
The tortoise and the hare.
Always. They beat the hare who works 15 intense hours a day for 3 weeks before collapsing back into the self-interference cycle. Consistency is the only lever that actually shifts identity over time.
So you now have reality literacy, you have the map of this causal network, and you have the 5 practical levers you need to engage in omnomorphic change to align your identity, your state, and your action. The tools are there.
And if we circle all the way back to that ancient philosophical truth at the heart of this, character is destiny. Your external reality will always reflect your internal character. Who you are being in this very moment determines what you get.
So if you master your mind,
you master your reality, your financial goals truly become inevitable. The only question left is, do you have the sustained desire and the willingness to suffer for the character that achieves them?